Do you remember the lockdown? You were lounging on your sofa, scrolling through your phone. The streets outside were dead silent. The news was filled with stories about migrant workers dying, police beating people for stepping out, and somehow the richest people were still getting richer. Now imagine a film that captures that exact feeling of dread, paranoia, and rage, but wraps it in a neon soaked crime thriller about a hitman who can't sleep. That is Kennedy. And here's the twist. Despite getting a 7-minute standing ovation at Cannes Film Festival, this film still hasn't been released in Indian theaters. Today, we are going to talk about why this might be one of the most important Indian films you can't watch and what makes it so dangerous that it is being kept in the shadows. Let me paint you a picture. It's 2 a.m. in Mumbai during lockdown. The streets that are usually choked with traffic are now empty and eerie. A man sits in a car. He looks tired, really tired, like he hasn't slept in days. He is wearing a medical mask, but not for COVID. He is hiding his face because officially this man is dead. His name is Uday Shetty, but he goes by Kennedy and he is waiting for his next assignment. Kennedy is not a cab driver, even though he uses a ride sharing app. He is a hitman, but not for some gang or mafia. He works for the Mumbai Police Commissioner. His job? To eliminate people who have become problems. Corrupt politicians who know too much, gangsters who won't play ball, and even who threaten the delicate balance of power. Kennedy is also hunting someone, a shadowy figure who Kennedy believes destroyed his life. So every night while doing the commissioner's dirty work, he is also searching for the man responsible for turning him into a ghost. Anurag Kashyap shot this like a nightmare you can't wake up from. Remember those nights during lockdown when you would look out your window and the streets felt post apocalyptic? That's the entire film. Kashyap shot this over 30 consecutive nights using only the empty streets, and it looks like Mumbai has become a ghost town. But here's what makes it visceral. The color palette feels toxic, like the air itself is poisoned. Sickly greens and jaundiced yellows from streetlights bathe every frame. Occasional neon pinks and reds bleed through the darkness like open wounds. You don't just watch this film, you feel contaminated by it. The colors make you uncomfortable, like you need to wash your hands after the frame passes. When you see Kennedy in action, he is often just a silhouette, a shape moving through shadows. The cinematographer, Sylvester Fonseca, keeps pulling him in and out of darkness. Sometimes you see his eyes, just his eyes, staring from behind a mask with this dead 1,000 yard stare. You want him to blink, to show some humanity, but he never does. It's like looking at a shark. And then there's the mask. Sometimes Kennedy wears full face mask that makes him look like Vin Diesel or some generic action hero, which is deeply unsettling. He is playing dress up as a hero while doing absolutely monstrous things. It's like watching a child's Halloween costume on a serial killer. The cinematographer creates what I would call beautiful ugliness. Every frame looks like a graphic novel panel, composed, artistic, striking, but the beauty makes the violence even more disturbing. It's like watching an execution presented as a ballet, and the sound design will crawl under your skin. Kashyap hired the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra, yes, a full classical orchestra, to score this film. Kennedy is strangling someone, and instead of tense action music, you hear these sweeping, tragic violins and cellos. It's like watching an opera where everyone dies. Except the opera is happening in the backseat of an Uber in Andheri. It creates this weird, uncomfortable emotional response where you are horrified by what you are seeing, but the music is making you feel the profound sadness of it all. The tragedy that people have been reduced to this. It's not glorifying the violence, it's mourning it. You feel complicit, like you are attending a funeral for humanity itself. And then there's the silence. This is where the film becomes genuinely unnerving. Because of lockdown, there is no traffic noise, no crowd sounds, no ambient city hum, just breathing, footsteps, the click of a gun being loaded, a lighter sparking, the creak of leather as someone shifts in a car seat. Every small sound becomes massive. The silence makes you hold your breath. You realize you are tensing up, listening for threats the way Kennedy is. It's suffocating, this oppressive quiet that makes you understand why he can't sleep. In silence, you hear everything you are trying to forget. And the performances are brilliant. Rahul Bhat becomes the ghost. Most hitman movies have killers who are almost superhuman. John Wick, Jason Bourne, machines, efficient, in control. Kennedy is the opposite. He is falling apart in real time. Bhatt gained 18 kilos for the role and reportedly did not sleep during the entire shoot to capture this character's insomnia. What you get is this heavy, lumbering man who moves like every step costs him something. His face has this puffy, exhausted quality. Dark circles so deep they look like bruises. When he walks, he doesn't glide like an action hero. He shuffles, drags, stumbles. You feel the weight of his body, the effort of existing. His eyes are what haunt you, though. They are dead, completely dead, like lights that went out years ago and nobody bothered to replace the bulbs. When he speaks, it's in this deep, exhausted monotone, a voice from the bottom of a well. Every word sounds like it's dragging itself out of his throat. He's not enjoying any of this. There is no satisfaction, no pride, no nothing. He is just surviving, one hit at a time, like a factory worker on the night shift punching a clock made of corpses. There's the scene where he is just sitting in his car between assignments, and you watch him fighting to stay awake. His head drops, jerks up, drops again. In that moment, you see the man he used to be trying to surface through the monster he has become. It's one of the most quietly devastating things I have ever seen an actor do. Human. And then there is Charlie, the woman who laughs at funerals. Sunny Leone as Charlie is metacasting at its finest. Known primarily for her past in adult films and for doing item numbers in Bollywood, she is often viewed through a very specific objectifying lens. Kashyap takes that audience baggage and weaponizes it. Charlie is a woman who's been abused and objectified by powerful men her entire life. She works in their world, the world of 50 and 60-year-old men with money and connections who see her as a commodity. And she developed this defense mechanism. She laughs, but it's not a normal laugh. It's this sharp, elongated, almost hysterical squeal, awkward and uncomfortable and impossible to ignore. Kashyap borrowed this from a woman he knew in the 90s who used loud, aggressive laughter to intimidate men and keep them at arm's length. When Charlie laughs, it fills the room. It's jarring. It makes men uncomfortable, which is exactly the point. It's a weapon disguised as femininity, a way of saying, I see what you are, and I am laughing at you, while maintaining the performance they expect. What makes her character so tragic is that beneath the laugh and the glamour and the performance, she's completely hollowed out. She's learned to dissociate, to perform survival. When she finally intersects with Kennedy, it's not a romance. It's a collision between two people who have both been carved out by the system. They recognize each other not as potential lovers, but as fellow ghosts. There's this moment where her laugh just stops mid conversation, and the silence after it is deafening. In that silence, you see the real person, terrified and exhausted. And then the laugh comes roaring back, like armor snapping into place. Leone plays this with surprising depth. You understand that Charlie is every bit as much a performer as Kennedy, just using different tools to survive the same predatory world. But Kennedy isn't just a crime thriller, it's a direct indictment of how India actually works. In February 2021, something genuinely wild happened in Mumbai. A Mahindra Scorpio, loaded with explosive materials, was found parked outside Mukesh Ambani's residence. You know, the house that costs over $1 billion to build, while people were starving during lockdown. The investigation unravels like a conspiracy thriller. The car's owner, Mansukh Hiren, turned up dead in a creek. Then they arrested Sachin Vaze, a senior police officer and encounter specialist, which is a polite term for a cop who kills people extrajudicially. The investigation revealed a massive extortion racket being run by the police. The Home Minister had to resign. Kennedy takes this real event and asks, what if this isn't an aberration? What if this is just how it works? The film shows you a system where the lines between police, politicians, and criminals don't just blur, they don't exist. The commissioner in the film runs Kennedy like a middle manager runs his sales team, except the product being sold is murder. There are quotas, there are targets, there's a hierarchy of who gets killed and when. The film reveals that during lockdown, when legitimate businesses were shut down, the police lost their regular income from bribes and hafta. So they pivoted. They turned their guns on each other, on gangsters, on anyone who had money or knew too much. They became what they had always been hiding they were, an armed gang with government's backing. Throughout the film, the characters speak in whispers about Bada Papa in Mumbai and Supremo in Delhi. They never say names. They don't have to. The film makes it explicit. There's a pyramid. At the bottom, you have Kennedy, the ghost, the disposable weapon. Above him, the police commissioner, the middle manager. Above that, local politicians and corporate interests. And at the very top, the oligarch. The oligarchs, the billionaires who actually run the country. There's a moment in the film where someone mentions how certain billionaires profited obscenely from the lockdown, buying up distressed businesses, consolidating power while everyone else was dying. The film doesn't need to name names. Everyone watching in India knows exactly who they are talking about. The film's entire quest is to reach Bada Papa, to find the man at the top of the pyramid and make him pay. But here's the brilliant, bleak insight of the film. We never get there. Kennedy cannot. The system is designed so that the bottom can attack the middle, but never the top. The guys at the ground level kill each other, while the real power brokers remain untouchable, insulated by layers of deniability and disposable people. This is why the film connects so deeply. Kennedy is a poor man from the margins who's been turned into the enforcement arm of the very inequality that destroyed him. He does not kill billionaires. He kills other cops, other gangsters, other people from his class who have stepped out of line. He's keeping the pyramid stable from the inside. And on top of it is the lockdown nobody talks about. The time when the state showed its true face. We all remember the lockdown. The clapping for healthcare workers, the lighting of lamps, the PM asking us to bang plates on our balconies. It felt performative even then. But we went along because what else could we do? Kennedy strips away the performance and shows you what was really happening. While we were banging our thalis, migrant workers were walking hundreds of kilometers because nobody cared if they lived or died. While we were posting, "We are all in this together" on Instagram, the police were using empty streets as hunting grounds. While we were doing Zoom calls from home, people were dying in silence. The film uses the pandemic not as a backdrop, but as X ray. The lockdown revealed the skeleton beneath India's skin, the brutal hierarchy, the disposability of human life, the way power operates when it does not have to pretend anymore. There are no crowds in Kennedy, no witnesses, just Kennedy moving through empty streets like a shark through dark water, doing the state's dirty work while the state's propaganda machine tells everyone to light candles and bang plates. It's Kashyap's most savage critique. The ritual, the performance, the spectacle, all of it exists to distract you from the bodies piling up in the dark. But that leaves us with one more question. Why Kennedy? The name Kennedy isn't random or cool. It's loaded with historical weight. President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963. The official story said it was one man, Lee Harvey Oswald, the lone gunman. But for years, people have speculated something bigger: the CIA, the mob, a conspiracy that went all the way to the top. Our Kennedy lives inside that conspiracy. He is the patsy, the fall guy, the man doing the shooting while someone else pulls the strings. He is Oswald, but he knows it. And like the JFK assassination, the real question isn't who pulled the trigger, it's who gave the order and why. The name itself is a curse. JFK was killed, Robert F. Kennedy was killed. By calling himself Kennedy, Uday Shetty is marking himself for death. He is not the president, powerful, beloved, untouchable. He is the target. He is the man in the crosshairs who thinks he is the shooter until it's too late. It's also darkly ironic. Kennedy was an American name associated with power, glamour, Camelot. But Kennedy is an invisible Indian hitman living in a car. The name is aspirational and absurd at the same time. A nickname that promises importance while delivering only oblivion. Only oblivion. The oblivion that seems to wait this film as well. This is the film that India refuses to see. Kennedy premiered at the Cannes Film Festival in May 2023. 7 minutes standing ovation. Critics calling it a return to form for Kashyap, a dark masterpiece. International film festivals have shown it. It's available on Letterboxd Video Store, but only for audiences outside India. As of January 2025, nearly 2 years after Cannes, it still hasn't been released in Indian theatres. Let me be clear, it has a censor certificate. Technically, it's approved for release. So why is it not in theatres? Kashyap has been remarkably candid about this. The studio executives who originally believed in the film and greenlit it, they are all gone. Fired, transferred, moved to other companies. The new people looking at the balance sheet see a dark, slow burn political thriller that criticizes police corruption, billionaire oligarchs, and government incompetence during the pandemic. That's not a safe investment, that's a liability. He's also mentioned that when he pitched new projects to streaming platforms, they told him they wanted formulaic content. Money heist clones, as he put it. Things that algorithms know how to promote, that fit neatly into genre categories, that don't make powerful people uncomfortable. Kennedy doesn't fit into an algorithm. It's too strange, too angry, too uncomfortable. It's a film that names names without naming names, that points fingers at system everyone knows exists, but nobody wants to acknowledge. Think about the irony for a second. The film is about a man who's been erased by the system, declared dead. turning into a ghost who continues to serve the very system that destroyed him. A man who's celebrated by some, the underworld, his handlers, but invisible to society. A man who realizes too late that his loyalty was worthless, that he was always disposable. And the film itself, celebrated by the international film community, Cannes film festivals worldwide, but erased from its home country. Created by one of India's most important filmmakers, but rendered invisible to Indian audience. A film that served the interest of its studio at Cannes and is now being discarded because it's no longer useful. The art is literally living in the fate of its protagonist. Kashyap has said he has detached himself from Kennedy because he can't go through the heartbreak again. His earlier film Black Friday was banned for 2 years because it was about the 93 Mumbai bombings and was deemed too politically sensitive. He fought for years to get it released, and the battle exhausted him. Now, with Kennedy, he's choosing not to fight. Can you imagine creating something this personal and powerful, having the world validate it at Cannes, and then watching your own country refuse to show it? Not through an explicit ban, those at least acknowledge your existence, but through bureaucratic indifference and corporate cowardice. It's death by paperwork, erasure by spreadsheet. The film exists, but it doesn't exist, just like Kennedy. Kennedy can't sleep. The film makes this literal. He is a chronic insomniac, his eyes permanently ringed with exhaustion, his body slowly falling apart from the lack of rest. But think about what insomnia really means in this context. Sleep requires a clear conscience, or at least the ability to forget. Kennedy has neither. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees what he's done. Every victim, every compromise, every time he pulled the trigger because the commissioner told him to. But on a deeper level, his insomnia represents something even more devastating. He cannot close his eyes because he is what's in the dark. He is the monster. He is the thing that crawls out when the city sleeps. If he rests, if he lets his guard down, he will have to face what he's become. There is this brilliant visual motif throughout the film where Kennedy is always lit from below or from the side, shadows cutting across his face, his eyes sometimes visible and sometimes swallowed by darkness. He is neither fully in the light nor fully in shadow. He is trapped in this liminal space between human and weapon, between victim and victimizer. And that liminal space, it's exhausting. It requires constant vigilance. You can see it in Rahul Bhat's performance. The way Kennedy's shoulders sag, the way he moves like he's underwater, fighting against the weight of just existing. The film suggests that this is the price of consciousness in a corrupt system. You either fall asleep and become complicit through ignorance, or you stay awake and become complicit through participation. Either way, you lose. Kennedy is more than just a crime thriller. It's asking you, the viewer, an uncomfortable question. When you see injustice, when you know the system is corrupt, when you understand that your comfort comes at someone else's expense, what do you do? Kennedy chooses to serve the system. He thought he could work within it, use it, maybe even get justice through it. He was wrong. The system used him and spit him out. But what's the alternative? Open rebellion? Kennedy tried that too. And the result? More violence, more death. The system absorbs it, replaces the dead parts, and continues. The film offers no solutions, no easy answers, no revolutionary manifesto, just the bleak understanding that we are all Kennedy in some way, trapped in a system we did not create, serving interests we don't benefit from, too exhausted to fight and too awake to ignore. That's why the film is so uncomfortable to watch. It's not showing you monsters, it's showing you a mirror. There's a poem by Amir Aziz woven into this film's DNA. Aziz is a poet and activist who rose to prominence during the anti CAA protests. Those massive demonstrations where millions of Indians took to the streets to protest discriminatory citizenship laws. His poem became an anthem, Sab Yaad Rakha Jayega. The poem's key line cut like a knife. Kill us. We will become ghosts and write of your killings. With all the evidence, everything will be remembered. That's what Kennedy is. It's a ghost writing. It's a record of what happened during those lockdown months. The deaths, the corruption, the way power revealed itself when it stopped pretending to care. Even if the film never plays in a single Indian theatre, even if it becomes this legendary lost Kashyap film, it has already done what Aziz's poem promises. It has remembered. Kashyap has created a time capsule of 2020-21 India the powerful people would prefer to forget. A document that shows how the system actually works when the cameras are off and the streets are empty. A film that refuses to look away, that insists on bearing witness even when witnessing makes you complicit. And here's the thing about ghosts, you can try to bury them, but they have a way of lingering. They persist. They show up when you least expect them, reminding you of what you tried to forget. Kennedy is haunting Indian cinema right now, even in its absence. Every article about it, every festival screening, every conversation like this one, they are all keeping it alive, making it more powerful, maybe, than if it had just gotten a quiet theatrical release and disappeared into streaming algorithms. A ghost haunting the industry that created it. Maybe that's fitting. Maybe Kennedy would never have existed any other way. Maybe a film this honest about power was always going to be buried in the very power it exposes. But here's what I know. I have seen it, others have seen it, and we are talking about it. We are asking questions about why it's being hidden, what it reveals, why it matters. And in asking those questions, we are already doing what the film wants us to do. We are remembering. We are refusing to forget. We are becoming the ghost that write of the killings. Everything will be remembered. Even, especially the things they don't want us to see.